everybody, and welcome to Caribbean Wayz, YouTube's newest Caribbean lifestyle and travel channel. If this is the first time to our channel, thank you for tuning in. If you're returning, thank you for coming back week after week to watch our videos of our Caribbean lifestyle and hotel spotlights. Who would have thought a year later we would still be dealing with the effects of COVID in regards to traveling? But here we are, and it has been quite a road. But people are starting to travel out of the country again. There are so many different rules and regulations, and they change literally by the day. Each country is doing its best to keep its own people safe and to still have travel, because many countries, especially in the Caribbean, they rely on travelers coming from the United States and Europe and all different places to keep their economy going. So they're doing everything that they can do. And I honestly commend so many of those countries for the diligence that they have put in and the efforts that they have put in to try to make it safe for us to be able to go back and travel to their countries. But what I want to talk to you about today is what happens if I go there and I get sick, or what happens if I go there and I test positive. Many of the countries you have to get tested 3 days or 7 days, depending on the country that you're going to. You have to have a COVID test proving that you are negative before you leave our country. Some of the places you may want to travel, you don't have to have that test to go into their countries. The United States, now you have to have the test 3 days prior to returning to our country. So potentially you'll be needing to have a test before you leave, a test while you're on vacation before you come back. What happens if I'm in, let's say, Jamaica or Cancun or wherever it may be, and I test positive, or my family member tests positive? What happens then? What the hotels are doing is they're offering testing right on site, which has made it so much easier for travelers. And very often families are able to go on their vacations. They're having wonderful vacations. The hotels are not crowded. They're peaceful, wonderful vacation. They all test negative. Within 3 days of returning, they come back and they talk about their amazing vacation, which makes other travelers then again want to go on vacation. But what about those scenarios that it doesn't quite turn out that way? That's what we're talking about today. I do know of a couple of cases where one in particular, a honeymoon couple went on vacation, and they were there for 5 nights, had a wonderful time. They were healthy, and they got their test to come back to the United States, and the husband tested positive. So the first thing that happened was the hotel went to the husband's room and told him that he tested positive and that they needed to put him in the quarantine section of the hotel. So here it is. He's positive, his wife is negative. They are newlyweds. What do? They gave her the option of being able to stay in the room that she was originally in. They gave her the option of going and staying in the room with him, or staying in a different room in the area that he was staying. And that was what she ultimately chose, was to stay over in the area that he was staying, but in a separate room. Ultimately, she could have stayed with him during his quarantine time, because he tested positive. He then had to stay for 10 days before he could get a doctor's note saying that he had tested positive and 10 days had passed, so he was now safe to be able to travel to come home. The wife decided that she was going to go home on her scheduled flight, because she was afraid that if she stayed there and stayed in the room with him and then days passed, she might now test positive, and then that could start all over again. So that was one scenario. Another scenario that I know of is a family that had gone, quite a large family, and the mom and one of the children tested positive. The rest of the family tested negative. In that particular case, the mom and the child stayed on property for 10 days. The rest of the family traveled back. After the 10 days, the family was able to go. The reason for this video is to talk to you about the decisions that you need to make. These are just a couple of scenarios that I came up with. If you are considering traveling just please look at all of the options of what could happen if you were to go to this country. You know, thank goodness a lot of people that are coming down with COVID aren't having very many symptoms or aren't having really bad symptoms. There are other cases where people do get very sick though, so that's another thing that you have to consider. And I'm not here to give you advice on what decision that is right for you. I think everyone needs to make that decision for themselves. We do have the vaccines coming out, and that will be changing things again when it comes to travel. And we have to just keep watching day by day. But I just wanted to give you a little idea today of what does happen, because I've had people asking me, well, have people tested positive when they've been out of the country and what has happened? And I wanted to give you a little update on what I have been hearing of what has happened, and just let you have something to think about when you're considering traveling. The information that I gave you today is not meant in any way to try to tell you that you should travel or you shouldn't travel. I think every individual person has to decide that on their own. I just want you to be aware of what I have been hearing, what has been happening in the travel world, and please just make an educated decision of whether you want to travel out of the country or if you're not ready to. And watch the guidelines because they are changing daily. Thank you again for watching our channel, watching our hotel spotlights and our Caribbean lifestyle. If you are finding our content helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and ring the bell so that you'll be notified of future videos we have coming up. With Caribbean Wayz, we will show you the ways.
Caribbean Wayz, Caribbean Wayz.